producer Jared is late to the party. I'm here by myself in space. Today on the Brand Spaceship, we are going behind the scenes. There will be 2 episodes about the difference between amateurs and professionals in the filmmaking world. And just like that, producer Jared arrives exactly after the pitch.
The most important thing in the producer role is to show up after the host. That is vital. Oh, more ASMR.
Lost in space, but that's okay. Climb aboard the Brand Spaceship today.
Welcome to the Brand Spaceship. I'm Ryan Sheffer. Today we're looking at the differences between a pro and an amateur filmmaker within the context of 2 extremely complicated projects My Lady just finished. So let us bore you unless you're really interested in how the sausage is made.
Yeah, because once you see the sausage being made, all you want to do is watch sausage being made.
The only time I ever dabbled in veganism was watching sausage being made.
You were like...
And maybe this will happen too for your creative endeavors.
Did you already preface with the audience while I was sleeping the nature of the projects we're about to
I did, Jared. I think it'd be a great job for you since you've really not brought much to the table so far.
Okay, great. We worked on Google Cloud Next, which was a live event in San Francisco where Google talks about all the things next in the world of technology. And within that, there was this massive screen, as you'll see, that is 200 feet long.
231 feet long.
231 feet long. So pixels, think about that. That's a lot of pixels.
It was 20K.
20,000 pixels.
That's just wide, just so we're clear.
That's just width.
Yep.
And so in front of those screens, there were 3 main screens that were closer to 16 by 9, but not quite. So we were tasked with using all of these screens for all of the media, an incredible amount of media.
2904. What does that mean?
2904. Is that one of your no, I don't know.
2904 is the amount of files we delivered.
Was it really?
2904. 2,904 files. Now, I'm going to break down. What's up, Jared? That surprise you?
Yeah, I worked on this project every single day, and obviously maybe I can pull up the tracker to show what that looks like.
Hold on. I can tell you how to do it. Go into Dropbox. If you go directly to the media tracker labeled Google Next 23 Freeman Deliverables, okay? Shout out to Freeman, a great partner and agency doing the best events in the world that brings us on all the time. If you Command I on this folder, it will tell you that it is not only 3 terabytes of data, it is also 2,904 items. It only says 3.2 megabytes on disk because I am storing this in the cloud via Dropbox. How we share data. If you haven't checked out our episode on file storage when dealing with tons of files, you should, because that's why 3.1 terabytes only takes 3.2 megabytes on this computer. Okay, 2,904 items. That is how many items are in there.
Jeez. There was...
Let's take a moment. Let's zoom into Jared and all the pain he feels.
You could do a recap.
Of all the work he did to organize all that data. When you are dealing with literally me sitting next to high up people at Google at the event, they at one point said, "Are you going to save this to me?" about a few things that were happening, which first of all, we're going to get into imposter syndrome, which I have all the time. But second of all, you just have to say, "Yes, I am." And that's how you know someone is a pro, because they get that done. They don't say we can't do it. They come up with solutions. And in this case, we had to come up with a lot of solutions to store 2,904 files and get them at the correct resolution, the correct export, et cetera, onto these big screens at the right time, all the changes coming through. There is a lot that has to happen correctly. This is communication. This is data storage. This is obviously creative execution. But I'm telling you, organization, data storage, communication, way more important than actually being good at the job that you hypothetically are hired for. And I'm going to give a little story that Jared doesn't know. Story time with Ryan. Story time with Ryan. Story time with Ryan.
Do you want me to make a jingle for this?
When I was an amateur, I thought I was a pro. The first time anyone hired me to edit a feature film, They underpaid me. Actually, they did not. They paid me correctly because I did not know what I was doing. I was 21 years old. This was a documentary about brain trauma called Blood Equity. And fun fact here, there is a NFL.
It's all ahead on Inside the NFL.
I think it's Outside the Lines. It's the old HBO show.
Pre-Hard Knocks?
Pre-Hard Knocks, way pre.
Before Hard Knocks?
Way pre. This show came to my apartment in Playa del Rey, California.
They work in the bedroom of a modest apartment,
where I used a monitor I got for free every dime I had at the time to buy a computer, and I was editing this movie. NFL players were sitting on my shitty couch in my mold-infested apartment, and for a brief second, you see the back of my head while they talk to this guy, Roman Pfeiffer.
Former NFL linebacker Roman Pfeiffer, now a documentarian.
Shout out Roman Pfeiffer, delightful human. I used to get edit reviews from him while he was lifting weights at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. I had a delightful experience with everyone involved in that project. Roman specifically was a lovely, lovely man. Amazing to work with, and really trying to do something great after his NFL career had finished up, trying to bring out the stories of all these people who had been hurt by head trauma way early on. Before there were this, he was like the first person doing this, and I was lucky enough to be a part of it. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, cut to, we finished the movie, taking it to the delivery house, which I didn't even know was a thing, where I edit. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in Final Cut Pro 7. I put it all on this hard drive, this old LaCie hard drive, take it to the post house. It's going to package it all up and put it in a movie theater. The post house calls Roman and says, I don't know who your editors are, but this hard drive is f***ed. And they charged them $15,000 to reorganize all of my data. I think I made $2,000 a month editing the feature, which to edit a feature going into a movie theater, I may have even made less. $400 a week. It was $1,600 a month. And you get what you pay for is the lesson here working with me.
I want to, in between there, can we just shout out that $15,000 was paid to organize a hard drive? And then let's just link to our video that's free about organizing files.
Yeah, so $15,000. And the reason I remember this, it was significantly more money than I was paid to edit the entire thing. Now, I say this to say, the reason that's the case is when you get into longer projects or bigger projects, whether it's the length of time because it's a feature film or it's the amount of assets, like 2,904 assets for this Google project, it is harder to deliver properly than to create. And this is something I cannot iterate enough. It is harder to get the specs right, the data organization, the file structure, all of this stuff, the boring stuff, the stuff you don't think is sexy because it's not sexy. All of this is harder and more valuable and more important at a certain scale. There's plenty of stuff that is pro and you're a professional and you don't have this level of delivery. Case in point, this video. This video is not going to have a bunch of high-end quality control going on it. Smile and thumbs up, be like, let's go, this is done. When you are delivering for something like a big Google event, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. This is what the red should look like. The hex value of the colors needs to be exactly correct. And not to mention, that 20K screen that we had all these assets for, that had to be split into 3 separate files that perfectly had to link when they got put into the system that played them on the wall. We had to not only deliver once, we had to on the fly deliver over and over and over and over and over again. That 2,904 deliverables is probably over 10,000 renders.
I was going to say, one of my questions leading into this is, how do you keep track of all this? Just to give a quick view of this, what this looks like in an organization standpoint. But if you look at this, you can just see like everything is assigned an asset ID.
From my perspective, looking at this, it is so small I can't even see, which case in point expresses the fact that this is so convoluted and complicated.
It's massive, right? And it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. You know, every single line is another is a deliverable, right? So this tracker was really valuable in keeping like track of everything that is that would be needed for the show. But just looking at this, my question for you is, how do you balance the aggressive needs of a project like this with the demands of other projects? Because obviously for production agencies, there are generally more than one project going on.
Sure. If anyone wants a tracker, they should put it in the comments, okay? Because what I'm about to talk about is the importance of a tracker for all sorts of reasons. One of the things we learned from this, Jared, you and I have had Not always fun conversations in the last few weeks, all about the fact that, oh my God, this was a big project. We had another big project going at the same time, which will be the second episode. Both just happen to be these very technically complicated projects, lots of deliverables, and a bunch of focus. Keys here are division of labor. So you have to have leads on every project that know it inside and out. You also have to have floaters that know a bit of every single project. Additionally, those who are leads on that project shouldn't leave. If you are a lead on that project, you need to be stuck to that project, and it's inconvenient until it's done. In the case of this, I had both you and Joel on our team handling different parts. Joel on the creative front, you on the comms front. I had to float between a few different projects at the time. With something this complex, it wasn't easy to manage, but it would have been impossible if I didn't have people fully dedicated to that. The tracker, though, and all documentation and all storage is a big part of how this gets handled as well. People get sick. People step away. There's planned vacation. There's all sorts of reasons why people have to leave in the middle of a project. So then you go, okay, how do we make sure that whoever steps in knows exactly what's going on? The tracker that you just showed is a great example when there are lots of deliverables about that. So you can literally say, hey, asset number 501, that's yours today. What's 501?
I want to know everything.
And then go back into the tracker and look at the last render of 501.
I have detailed files.
Go back into the project or the folder structure on Dropbox. Where does it say 501? And frankly, this is true on the brand end as well, not just for us. You have to have as clear of documentation as possible, because it's not just about production companies having multiple projects. It's about everyone having other priorities. Your priority for the 2 months it takes to build out a big project like this cannot only be this project. Your kid gets chickenpox. Could happen.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're pretty distracted. All sorts of shit can get in the way of a project, and frankly, it should, because our life shouldn't be based around the projects. In order for us to free ourselves from these projects, not only to do other work, but also to just be humans, we have to track it. Tracker, data storage, and communication. Getting used to the idea that you delineate, okay, all comms happen in this place, usually Slack for us. All data is stored on Dropbox. Great. This is the folder structure for Dropbox. Any reviews happen on Frame. Awesome. From there, once we're ready to deliver something, there is a specific format with which we say, this asset is here. Here's a description of what it is. It is ready to go. It's all about data organization to be able to jump between projects, balance different projects, and also maintain being a human. One of the biggest things that I see happen in the industry, and I hope that at Mile80 we don't do not define yourself by your output. You are not defined by what you make for Google Cloud Next. No one actually cares. For a brief second, they're like, way to go. But you have to figure out how to get better at your skill, get better at your art. If you're on the brand end, get better at expressing your brand while also still being a human. Otherwise, all of this becomes way, 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 way more stressful.
What you said around not equating your worth, your own value, and your identity with the output is super important, because when you're deep into a project like this and you're spending often 10 to 12 hours a day just on this, just on a tracker, just on a million different deliverable assets, it's very, very easy to start taking that on as like, this is my temporary identity.
I'm not being grouchy. I just want to finish my work.
You give yourself permission to not be that by making rules at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? This is what this project is. It's a series of deliverables. We deal with this all the time with all sorts of clients. They're just like, we got this idea, and they get excited about the idea. And we're like, we need to break this down into 2,904 deliverables. This is the difference between the amateur and the professional. Do you make it an art expression, or do you make it an expression of a business goal? Here's the system by which we will get there, and we will get there great. You need communications content. Great. You need 2,904 of them. Lovely. This is the timeline during which we're going to do it. Everything else all of a sudden disappears. It becomes an actual job. The less organization we do, the harder it is to see this as an activity that is a job. It's unclear when it's done. It's unclear whether it's good. It's unclear whether it's successful. So you start to attach feedback from other people to yourself instead of just being like, you said for me to do X, like X is there. I will tell you, I don't even think I said this to you, on set at Google Cloud, I was so chill despite it being chaos. First morning of the keynote preparation, I'm excited. I had one of the producers come up to me and say, how did you get how you are? And I started laughing. I was like, I don't know how to take this. Is that a compliment? And she's like, no, it's a compliment. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you're just really calm. And I'm like, well, we set the rules about what we're doing, and we did it. And, you seem to be fine with how it was done, but it was done, and that's what we said we would do. Anything beyond that I attach myself to,
You hear me typing.
is a disservice to myself, to my family, to my friends, and to the company.
That means don't come in.
Because when the company asked me to not focus on Google Cloud like it did and focus on the next project we're going to talk about with Intuit, I was able to detach myself. I wasn't worried about whether or not people thought it was good or bad, etc. The last thing I will say about being there in person was what it did bring up for me was a lot of imposter syndrome. Less so than usual.
It has been quite a long few days. As you can say, it's a job well done.
In fact, it stood out to me because it wasn't as present. For the longest time, about 20 years into my career, I would show up. I told that story time with Ryan where I'm standing with Roman Pfeiffer. I'm like, this guy's in the NFL. I don't know what to do. He's so cool, right? Like that was my energy. It's like, why am I here? Meanwhile, the truth is that he wanted me to be there. I was helping him. We have this idea that like we're not ready for whatever we show up at. And the truth is that you're only there because you are ready. And if you're not, frankly, everyone's praying that you are. So the way I always try to think about it, it's like, listen, you may not be able to solve the problem that this person you think is way above you is asking you to solve, but they sure as hell hope you can. And instead of like shifting into your own ego of like, oh no, I'm not good enough or I'm good enough or whatever, stay in the space of, I guess is what I'm supposed to do right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's another way to detach yourself from the actual creation, the art, and instead focus on what is the goal of this project? I'm delivering that goal. And that will bring us full circle in a conversation about the differences between a professional and an amateur. An amateur attaches themselves to a project and does not put the systems in place to not only detach themselves, but also ensure that when the movie is done, it's not f***ed, and the charge to fix it isn't more than they paid to make the movie in the first place.
Even if you fail, and sometimes you will fail in an incredibly overwhelming project, a professional is able to frame that as a learning opportunity, a growth opportunity, instead of being like, man, this sucks and I never want to do this again. If you look at where the pain points were and put that in the back pocket and put systems in place ahead of the next time that something like this comes out, you will like not only do way better the next time, but you will have so much more confidence to provide and offer these services to clients.
The professional is not observing and deciding upon the relative success and failure of a project, and instead is constantly improving. An amateur is constantly assessing whether their own creation is good or bad. An amateur blames the referee for the game, and a professional figures out what's next. All right, that's been the Brand Spaceship. That's producer Jared. He's the best producer in the galaxy, and I'm curious, do we have any jabs or anything like this? We have brought to you.
I do have a jab.
Anything?
Do you want to know who these Jared jabs brought to you by?
Yes.
Today's Jared's Jabs is brought to you by Nebula Nib.
Ooh.
Ink your ideas in cosmic style. Now, I believe Nebula Nib is a pen company, an outer space pen company. I'm not sure. I don't ask questions of our sponsors. They send us money. I say thank you. I'll read your lines.
I got to be honest. Nib?
It's little nippy.
Nibulous.
Okay.
That's all we got. What's your jab?
My jab is, I want to know, when do you say no? When do you say no in a project like this?
When do you say no?
Yeah, to the client. Like, obviously
I actually got a shout out. I don't know if you track this in our Slack thread. There was a shout out from Gabrielle about how there was a request for us to do facial motion tracking and something and take stock footage and put random footage of faces on it, which would probably be shot on an iPhone. And I just said, no, we're not doing that. You were on that call. I was just like, no.
We can't. Like, we have no control over the source. Like, we can't promise that.
The short answer is when my gut says no.
Yeah.
But let me think about this for a second. When do you say no? You say no when you can't deliver. You actually know you can't deliver, not you think you can't deliver or you question if you can deliver. There are things you literally can't deliver. It requires skill and timing, though. So you probably have to start by saying yes a bunch and then like say, I'm so sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And then later on, once you get better at it, you'll be better at saying no. I'd say it kind of takes time. Kind of shitty answer.
No, it's not at all, because that plays right into the idea of professionals, one, not associating their own value with the work, and two, a willingness and a desire to take experiences as growing opportunities. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your transparency around telling people no.
Jared, is my internet bad or is it yours?
I don't believe it's mine, because I have
You're tweaking out. I think I'm talking to an AI. But luckily, it's a very kind AI named Jared Kindingham.
I could very well be. And also, I don't know if you've heard the bathroom construction going on downstairs.
I was actually wondering, is your house ever not under construction?
This is a very old house. We bought it, and then it was yep, none of this actually is going to work.
Wow, Jared. Sounds really rough. Did I mention I'm in space and you still haven't saved me?